Good morning and welcome to the very first MRTA educational webinar of 2022. We are glad that you are here today. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. And while we have some folks trying to log in here at the bottom of the hour, just a couple of housekeeping details as we get rolling here. All participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is if you have questions or you want to chat, feel free to drop that in the chat feature or the Q&A feature. Periodically, we'll stop along the way, answer those questions, or if it's something specific to you, we may take it offline and have a conversation after the webinar today. What we've done in the past is that we'll sometimes go through the presentation, have the conversation today, and at the end, we'll stop recording and just open it up. If there's a topic you want to talk about, just give you a chance to connect and ask questions and things like that as well. So you'll notice a couple of things on here. We want you to grab a pen and paper today because we're going to talk about some specific things, give you some specific form numbers, law changes, things like that, some numbers that I want you to write down. And then we are recording this webinar. It will be posted out on the MRTA website here in the near future. And then you'll have an opportunity if you've got questions at the end, you'll have my email address on there and I can send you some of the links and some of the things we've talked about as well today. You'll also notice the QR code down there in the bottom right-hand corner. That QR code is your way that you can ask more in-depth questions and find out about the services that AMBA offers to members exclusively of MRTA. And so I'll show you how to use that at the end of the conversation today. We are joined hopefully by the president of MRTA, Nancy Craig. Nancy, are you on the line this morning with us? I think she was having a little bit of a challenge getting in. I see that she's there. What we'll do is if she can hop in and she gets her audio fixed very shortly, then we will have her come in and share. But let's go ahead and get rolling today. I want to talk about, because there's so many things going on with MRTA. I hope it's going well for you up there. You're all staying warm. And so we'll get in and kind of jump in and just talk about what's happening at MRTA. I highly encourage you to get involved, get on the email list, get the newsletters. Many of you are members already, but also follow on Facebook because there's so many things that are happening. And the biggest announcement was that we have a new executive director coming on very soon, and that's Maria Walden. And she'll be joining us here, hopefully on one of our upcoming webinars, and be able to share what's going on out there and welcome her into the MRTA family. Excited about hearing from her and hearing about what's going on as well. So Nancy, are you with us now? If you want to unmute your phone, and let's see if I can get you to unmute. Nancy, are you there? All right, we're still having a little bit of a challenge with getting Nancy connected there. I do want to point out a couple of other things going on with MRTA. We talked about the legislative day, going to the Capitol in Jeff City and meeting on the 8th of February at 10:30. That has gone to a virtual event. And so be looking out for what activities that you can get involved virtually because of the virus. We're trying to still avoid trying to get together in large groups, but we still want to have our voice heard at the Capitol, especially in regard to your pension and making sure that your pension is strong. Cost of living increases are strong as well for all members of the education community in Missouri. So make sure you pay attention to that. It will still happen on the 8th. It just will not be in person, but it will be something we'll do virtually, letter writing campaigns as well. Also, if you watch every Wednesday on Facebook, you'll notice that the Missouri Retired Teacher Foundation does a raffle, and they have raffle tickets that they're selling right now. You can get them in your newsletter. You can get them in a wide variety of ways. Call in the office. Kayla can take care of you when you call the office, that type of thing. They're funding 126 teacher grants in the coming year, and then probably 20 plus para grants as well for bus drivers, paraprofessionals, and things like that. So it's encouraged you to get involved in that. The quicker you get in the raffle, the chances are that you can win gift cards along the way before we start doing the checks and passing those checks out as well. So there's so much going on with MRTA. We've already kicked the year off. We're rocking and rolling along. Kayla, you've just joined us. If you want to unmute your phone and tell us a little bit about the raffle. How are you this morning?
Hi, good morning, John. How are you?
I am wonderful, wonderful.
Good.
I was telling the group all about Maria coming on and about the legislative day being kind of sidelined in person, but what we're doing online. So tell me what you're going to do virtually at the legislative day. Are you there? think we're having some technology issues up there. So we may come back a little bit later and see if Kayla or Nancy can tell us more about the MRTF raffle and legislation day. So we will get them rolling in here. Kayla, before I move on, you want to tell us a little bit about the legislative day and the MRTF raffle?
Yeah, sorry about that. I got lost connection somewhere, but I'm back on. But yes, our raffle is off to a good start. We had our first winning Wednesday yesterday, and we had our first, and on those winning Wednesdays, people can win. If their ticket is drawn, they win a $50 gift card. Since we had our first one yesterday, and if I'm not mistaken, we have sold to 6 different people. So we had and newsletters are going out with raffle tickets in them, and people can also call the office to get raffle tickets. It's $10 per ticket or $50 for 6 tickets. But yeah, more than happy to take a credit card over the phone to pay for those, or you can send in a check or cash, and with your information, we will fill those out. So please donate to that. And this year we're doing things a little bit differently. It is a $10,000 raffle. However, we're not just doing a $10,000 prize. We are splitting that $10,000 up, and we will have a $5,000 prize, a $3,000 prize, and then 2 $1,000 prizes. So lots of chances for people to win a significant amount of money. Absolutely. So that's it for our foundation raffle. And then for legislative day, a notice will actually be going out later today in regards to legislative day. Due to the increase in COVID, legislative day is going to be canceled for this year. However, we're still going to do our Capitol Blitz Day, and that'll be done via email, phone to action, and other outlets. More details to come on that. But again, pay attention to your email. A press release will go out later this afternoon in regards to legislative day.
Great. And when does Maria join MRTA in her official capacity?
Maria will be joining us on February 1st. She will start. However, she has been working with us since the announcement earlier this month. So she's in the know and has been working behind scenes, but she will officially be in the office on February 1st.
Great. We're excited about that. I know y'all are up there as well. And so thank you for you and the crew for holding down the fort until she comes in, but more importantly, for taking care of our retired educators. And I know Nancy's been covering the whole state. It's time to get back out there again and finish the rest of that up in her term as well. So looking forward to a lot of activity and looking forward to being up there in person with y'all at some point. So thank you, Kayla, for sharing with us today. And
thank you, John.
All right, everyone be on the lookout for the email, the communication about the legislative action activities, as well as the raffle. Let's take care of those classroom teachers, those paras as well. And then maybe you'll win some money on top of that as well. So let's get rolling right on here. Again, my name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. I live just a little bit north of Houston, and my weather is quite a bit warmer than yours right now, but I'm not going to brag about that. My wife is a 2nd grade teacher in the same school that she and my 3 kids went to. And so we've got kids that are all now in their adult phases. My middle son that's there on the right-hand side, he did get his graduate degree at Mizzou in Columbia. So I love spending some time up there in Missouri during his time that he was there as well. So, but most of my career I've spent working with active educators, helping them understand what the retirement side is like. And so I appreciate being able to speak to you on behalf of AMBA, on behalf of the MRTA, about a lot of our topics today and be able to discuss some issues that are important to you. But I really want to focus just for a second on what MRTA does for you and for those active teachers that are the next generation of MRTA members. First of all, MRTA, number one, first and foremost, is a pension watchdog, making sure that that pension that you work so hard for is there for you when you need it. Cost of living increases are there as well. What we've noticed this year in early legislation, because last couple of years, the stock market has gone up so much that pension funds have been really at all-time highs. Well, when that happens, legislators start looking around going, well, do we really need to make a contribution to that pension fund? Or is there anything we can do to touch that pension fund and use that money for somewhere else? That's why it's so important that MRTA is strong, 30,000 plus members, to preserve and watch over that pension for you and to preserve those health benefits that you receive from your district, could keep you connected back to your local community, especially in times of this. Are we in COVID? Are we not within COVID? That kind of stuff. whether we meet face-to-face, electronically, virtually, phone calls, whatever, keeping you connected, and then to partner up with us at AMBA to make sure that you've got access to exclusive benefits, discounts, and things like that as well. And when you look at the overall partnership between AMBA and MRTA, we have many members that tell us they're appreciative that they have those benefits because it covers those gaps that they didn't get from the state or from their district. They're portable, meaning they're not tied to any network. So if they do move out of state, and we do have many members of MRTA who have moved out of state, they can take them with them for whatever reason. But they really like the ability to extend those benefits to their parents or to their family members who aren't eligible. Maybe it's an adult child that's aged out of dental and vision coverage, something like that. And we have also many teachers, and there may be many of you on the call today, that retired from the classroom, but are working a second career, and you still have elderly parents. Well, with the proper planning and benefits from MRTA, it could prevent you from having to take extended time off to take care of a loved one. And so those are some of the benefits that we talk about from MRTA and AMBA today. What I want to talk about today specifically are some things that have gone into effect, some new laws that went into effect this year, talk about Social Security and Medicare a little bit, and then kind of boil down what some of those gaps that we've seen that are in there, and then share some financial tips that you can act on immediately to kind of protect your household and your generation. So I want to take a survey real quick. So I'm going to pull this survey up here, and let's see if I can get, let me go find another poll here. That's not the poll I want to get. Let's see here. Let's do this. Let's skip the poll today, because what I want to do is come back and talk a little bit about Medicare, but I want to come back and talk to you about some issues that we have as well. So the reason we're doing this is because this is a photograph of two of the three most important women in my life. One is my daughter and one is my mother. My mother turns 81 in May, and this is a photo at Christmas with her and with my daughter. And I noticed just a little bit in conversation with her, things slipping a little bit, her having to repeat herself, getting a little bit confused. And it got me thinking when I was doing research to put this presentation together, what would happen if something happened to my mom? My brother and I had to take care of her in terms of financially, getting her house in order, things like that. And as I was doing some research in there that talks about when to wait to talk to, or not waiting to talk to, an aging parent about their financial issues. And many of you on this call, you may be that aging parent. You may have parents that are older than you, that are elderly, that you have to take care of as well. And oftentimes you may be thinking, or your parents may be thinking, do I have enough money saved up for retirement? You know, will I ever pay off my existing debt? Or if I have a high medical bill, how am I going to pay for that? What's going to take place there? So that's the reason I put this conversation together. That's the reason I want to talk about some things today, and make sure that you understand some of the new laws, some of the good things, some of the bad things, and make sure that you're prepared. So we'll talk through that today. Again, if you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll take a look at those and try to answer those as well. So this is a new law that came in effect January 1st. And it's an interesting law because it really impacts people in Missouri a little bit differently. It was part of the 2020 COVID-19 bill, which threw a ton of stuff in there, but it impacts those what are called balanced billing or surprise medical bills. And what you find is, and when I say this is, what a surprise medical bill or balanced billing is, say you go receive a treatment somewhere, or a procedure done to you, or you ride in an ambulance somewhere, and you think, well, because I've got coverage through a particular insurance company or through Medicare, it's going to be paid for within my limits, and I've got deductibles, copays, whatever. But then all of a sudden you get a bill from an out-of-network provider you didn't even know existed. It could be a radiologist that read it, or it could be an ambulance provider that wasn't part of the network, something like that. This bill tries to address that. And what it says that those out-of-network providers have to give you 72 hours notice prior to the procedure that they are out of network. So it gives you a little bit of time to know what your bill could be, but also to possibly shop and ask for your doctor to say, find me an in-network provider, that type of thing. It doesn't change any of the co-insurance clauses, deductibles, copays, anything that are basically part of your policy. It really impacts those out-of-network providers there. And what it does, it takes you out of the dispute process. It puts the dispute process between the provider and the insurance carrier to a third party. So you're removed from that surprise bill, which I think in the long run is good. Insurance companies have had time to prepare for this. Hospitals and plans and stuff like that have time to prepare for this. So I'll be real interested to see how this works. It doesn't impact ground ambulance, but it does impact air ambulances. And as we've talked about before, if you've joined us on some calls in the past, you know that there are a lot of air ambulance providers in the state of Missouri because there's a lot of open land between the major cities. And so I'll be real interested to see how this works out. Just know that I think in the long run, this is going to be a good bill for everyone. But early on, the devil's in the details, for lack of a better term. But I think in the long run, it's going to help you to be a better healthcare consumer and not be hit with these surprise bills for thousands of dollars you didn't expect. And so looking forward to that. All right, let's talk about Social Security and Medicare changes, because there are some pretty substantial ones for the first time in a long time. There is a sizable increase that's come on your Social Security check, about a 5.9%. Now, I know in Missouri, that's kind of a touchy subject, just like it is for my wife and the teachers in Texas, because most of the school districts don't pay into Social Security in Texas. But you could have a spouse that's receiving Social Security. You may have done something with your pension where you have elected to go Social Security because of previous employment, something like that. Just want to kind of give you an overall 5.9% cost of living increase in Social Security, average increase about $92, max about $197 out there. That's all great. However, when that goes up, we know that Medicare follows right behind that. And so Medicare Part B payments jumped up about $21, $22 this year to $170 a month. And so I was going back looking and doing a little research about when they've done the last cost of living increase in Social Security and Medicare and all that. And I looked in the past 10 years, Social Security has gone up 18%, but Medicare Part B premium has gone up 57+%. So the cost continues to go up on that side. We know that inflation is out there, but to just give you a heads up, that's what's going on with those things. The Medicare donut hole is changing as well. And we're going to have a Medicare webinar with Kel probably sometime here in the next few weeks, maybe early next month. But just a couple of highlights on there. The deductible went up, $35 is now $480. And the gap, the hole, the donut hole, so to speak, that you're responsible for Medicare drugs went up $300. So there are some changes out there that you just need to be aware of when you're preparing this year. Now, the Medicare cuts is what bothers me the most. And the reason it bothers me the most is because oftentimes it looks like it's small on paper. And they'll say, when we say billions, none of us are billionaires. But when you look at the Medicare cuts as a whole, they add up to a lot of money. These things have been in place for years. It's not tied into any one administration, not the last two administrations. They've been launched many moons ago. They started cutting services and payment reimbursement rates, small amounts. But those small amounts can make a difference, and I'll show you why in a moment. And these are on top of the increases in premiums like we talked about, deductibles, co-insurance clauses, things like that. But this is how it can affect you. So consider Grace, an average retired educator, had cancer, but for the past 8 years, she's been going to a physician's clinic to receive infusions to increase her immunity system, to fight off any future recurrence of cancer there. Medicare comes in and reduces the reimbursement rate for that medication by 2%. Seems small, doesn't seem like a big deal. Well, that physician's clinic chooses, because they can no longer afford to take the cut, not to be part of Medicare and not to participate in Medicare. So that forces Grace to decide, do I stay with somebody who I'm very comfortable with, that I've been going to for many years, and pay a higher price, or do I have to go somewhere else that takes Medicare maybe a little bit further away, have to drive longer, not as familiar with? That's how some of those minor cuts can really impact individuals. So I want to make you aware that's what's going on. This is kind of the year that those Medicare cuts come to an apex, meaning that they had been planned out for the past decade. I'm sure that there will be other changes coming in the next years, but this is kind of where it's gotten to. And we're seeing this more. It's not so much that they're cutting care, is that the reimbursement rates are causing doctors and clinics to decide whether they want to accept Medicare or not. And that can make a world of difference if you're used to someone that was providing that as well. Now, most of you may not know that Medicare, the cost of your premiums are tied to how much money you report on your taxes, your income. So if you had a major life-changing event last year, such as a marriage or divorce or spouse pass away, or you had, say you're retired and you were working a second career and you no longer work that second career now, so your income has changed dramatically. Maybe you had a home that was a rental property and it got destroyed in a tornado or something like that, and you're no longer making rental income off of that. You need to file an SSA 44. That's a Medicare Income Related Monthly Adjustment form. And what that does, it lets Medicare know that your income is no longer what it was in the past. Don't charge me more premiums. Basically, is what that does. So write that down. If you had a major life-changing event last year, file the SSA 44 immediately. That way you don't have to wait a whole year until your income processes through your change to get your premiums lowered. Do it now, get it done now. So make sure you've got that out there as well. Okay. I highly encourage you, and this is why MRTA and AMBA are partners together. We want you to understand what type of insurance plan you have, whether it's Medicare, whether it is planned through your district, through a spouse, through private insurance, whatever you do, understand your plans. Understand the difference between a copay, a deductible, and co-insurance, because some plans have all three of those and they have an out-of-pocket maximum on top of that. And this is how sometimes insurance companies, some supplements, things like that, will change to keep their premiums, I guess, more in line or less expensive, is they'll change their deductibles or their co-insurance, or the money that's out of your pocket that goes towards your insurance coverage. So it's important to understand that. Kel and Gary and their team, Kyle and Mike and the others, they can take care of understanding what those are for you, so you can see where your possibilities are of money out of your pocket. And I want you to be a better healthcare consumer. And here's why. Because healthcare costs are going up, it's important that you understand your coverage and take advantage of those perks and incentives. You hear the term silver sneakers thrown around. Some plans will offer gift cards to get your mammography done, to get a colonoscopy done, things like that. Take advantage of those things because they're really there for your preventative care, to make sure that you head off things in advance and take care of that. Ask for pricing transparency. And I can't stress this enough. It happened to our household back when the very first, what I call South Texas cold front came through. And that South Texas cold front comes through in November, and the cold front blows through when it goes from 85 to 75. Well, all of a sudden, all the pine trees and all the pollen and all that kind of stuff takes place. And my wife gets tremendously bad sinus infections. So she calls her doctor and says, I've got a sinus infection. I need antibiotics, or I need a steroid shot, whatever it is. Well, her doctor says, first of all, you need to get a COVID test. Second of all, you've got to set up a teledoc visit so that we can see you virtually before we'll see if you can see you in the office. Okay. Well, she's a teacher. And as you know, most of the time you can't get out of class to go see a doctor. So she set up her teledoc visit. Her teledoc visit consists of about 15 minutes of her doctor telling her, yeah, we probably won't do anything for you because by the time we can fit you in, you'll be done, and antibiotics don't help. Well, that was the $200 bill that the doctor told us. If my wife would have asked, what does a teledoc visit cost? She may have decided to go somewhere else than pay the $200 for that teledoc visit. So ask for price transparency up front. You may save you a good amount of money, allows you to shop around for services, clinics, things like that. And again, don't skip that preventative care. So many people in the past 2 years, because of COVID, have worried about moving into or going into an office or going into a clinic for preventative care. I can tell you, don't skip that. that can cause problems in the long run. So that's the way that I want you to be a better healthcare consumer of what you have out there. You're paying for this coverage, whether it be through Medicare, through a Medicare supplement, through private plans, through the school, through your spouse, something like that. Take advantage, read those policies, understand what's out there for you. Many of them offer those perks and incentives for you. Start that off the way on the new year. Now, what we do at AMBA is we look at most of the plans. We look at Medicare big time. We look at a lot of plans in the state, depending upon the usage in the state. And we find 4 major gaps. If you're under 65 and not on Medicare, and a few more on top of that if you're over 65 and you're on a supplement or something like that. These plans do not cover any type of home-based recovery care or any type of long-term care in their policies. They don't cover about 60% of the expenses related to a cancer diagnosis, heart attack, or a stroke. And what I'm saying by that is they do a good job of treating the event or the occurrence of cancer or the heart attack or the stroke. What they're not designed to cover is that recovery period afterwards, or that transportation costs back and forth, or if you have to go to Kansas City or come to Houston for any type of cancer treatment, things like that. They don't usually cover medical transport. Medicare has a very tight reimbursement rate for ground ambulances. Most ground ambulances are not part of any type of network, so they don't have to stick to that. And then there's not any expense out there from final expenses if somebody passes away. So those are kind of the gaps that we've seen in the Medicare plans, private insurance, things like that as well that are out there. Okay. If there's any questions on medical changes this year, medical issues, feel free to drop those in the chat. I do want to kind of jump into a healthy financial activities. These are things that I want you to look at, want you to consider this year. And they fall into 4 main categories. What are you spending? I want you to talk about insurance. So we're going to kind of touch on insurance as well. I'm talking home and auto insurance mostly. Planning and organizing. This is one that I kind of, if I point my finger at you, I'm pointing 4 back at me. This is my New Year's resolution, is planning and organizing. I'm going to talk about that and then talk about protecting your nest egg, because we have been on a tremendous upswing in the stock market, and want to talk a little bit about that as we go forward. Okay, let's talk about spending. There's really, in this time of inflation, we can clip coupons, we can do small things, stuff like that, but really the biggest budget busters are housing, transportation, and food. And so I just want to touch on that real lightly. These are some trends that you may see out there in the internet, or you hear friends talking about these things. These are some ways you can take advantage of it. I want you to kind of, look introspectively and say, are these some issues that I've got here? We talk about downsizing. I showed you my mom's picture there. She lives in the house that I grew up in. She's been there over 40 years. It's a 2-story house, and the thermostat is upstairs. At some point, I've got to make the decision with my brother, do we want her to continue to live that way? You've got to decide that as well. And because house prices are at their peak right now may be a good time to downsize. Take advantage of what you've got in your home that way. You'll see this term house hacking this year. I kind of got a kick out of the term house hacking, but what that really means is you, and if you're not married, taking on a roommate, basically, something like that, using your house as a means to cut expenses or drive more income. Some people will put their home up at Airbnb for a few weeks when they're out of town, something like that. I was looking for something for my wife and I to do this weekend because she's got a long weekend. And there are many farms in Texas where we can come stay at the farm and have a farm experience for $500 a night. I grew up on a farm. I don't know if $500 a night would be worth it, but there are ways that you can make money using your house. And then, of course, there's always the DIY, do-it-yourself repairs out there. But look at your house. Talk about this with your family. Is this something that, from an expense standpoint, that we really need to continue? Because the bigger house you have is more insurance, property taxes, things like that. When it comes to transportation, we know that gas is going up. Auto insurance doesn't go down. Right now, the cost of used vehicles is astronomical, the price that people are getting for that. If you've got an unused vehicle that you don't use, it's been sitting in the garage for whatever reason, now may be the best time to get the most money out of that unused vehicle. Consider that. If you're not using it as much, we'll talk about on the insurance side, you can find ways that maybe you can lower your insurance based on your mileage usage. And then when it comes to food, take advantage of the passport program that MRTA has for you through AMBA. Use that for meal prep programs that cut down on waste. If you are dining out, use it for the cost savings, the BOGO offers, things like that, the discounts that way. Help make your food dollar stretch a little bit more. And then I'll throw this question out there. It's not a question of judgment. Are you still helping out your adult children? There could be a budget buster hiding in that as well. All right, let's talk about insurance. And I'm talking about cars and homes mostly, because auto insurance is a way that you can save some money if you just do a little bit of legwork on your front end. Look at your deductibles. Oftentimes, if you have a $200 or a $50 deductible on your car, small deductible, raising that deductible on your car, taking on more of the risk yourself for a little bit more can save you money in the long run. Look at your mileage usage. So many carriers today are based on mileage. And if you haven't been driving that much because of COVID, or you don't drive that much anymore, consider contacting your agent and saying, hey, I only drive X amount of miles a year. Is there a cheaper rate for me? There may be some of you who have retired in the past few years and you're no longer working full time. Your auto insurance still may be rated as you're driving to and from work. So there could be an opportunity to call and say, hey, I'm retired. You need to see if I'm being rated as a work rated driver, and cut that rate down significantly that way. Look for affinity discounts. There are companies out there, because you are a retired educator, that are willing to give you discounts. They may be small, but every little bit adds up. Some of them may have extra coverage on top of that as well. Also look at your specialty coverage. And when I say specialty coverage, there may be some things that you needed at one time, say like pet insurance. Progressive, a couple other companies will provide pet insurance for a few dollars more. Well, you may not have your pet anymore. And so you can drop that off and save some money that way. Another, we see a lot of times people have AAA for towing and things like that. You may not need that on your auto insurance because you've got duplicate coverage. So look about that. And then bottom line, shop around. I pointed again the finger back at myself. I'm having my insurance shopped this year. It's been about 8 years. You never know what's out there. Companies are competing for new customers all the time. They may give you a better new client discount than what you were getting at your old company. When it comes to homeowners insurance, because house prices are going up right now, there's usually a difference in what you can sell your home for and what the replacement cost of your home is. And that's the replacement value on insurance. So it's important to understand that difference and make sure that your home isn't overinsured. Now, I'm always really keen on making sure my home's not underinsured, because if a fire happens or a tornado rolls through, you don't want to be left not having full coverage on your home. But oftentimes companies will put in their policies an automatic inflation increase on your home value every year. And sometimes it will get a little bit too high. So ask your agent to run a replacement cost estimator on your home. Make sure that you've got that taken care of. Again, look at deductibles. I know a lot of times in the Midwest, people will take small $100 or $1,000 deductibles. Consider going to a 1%. You'd be surprised how much that could save you that way as well. If you've done major renovations, such as put a new roof on your home, some electrical updates, new AC units, things like that, oftentimes you can get discounts for that. You need to let your insurance agent know. Consider bundling, meaning putting your auto and home together. There's pretty sizable discounts that way. And again, shop around. When it comes to your life insurance, you may not have the need for life insurance that you did in the past. Now, I'm a big believer in life insurance. I have it, even though none of my children right now are financially dependent upon me. I've got enough to handle final expenses, make sure my wife's taking care of, things like that. Look and see what you have out there and see if you still need it. Check and see if you have permanent insurance versus term insurance. If you have term insurance, the closer you get to that term expiring, it's going to go up astronomically after that term expires. So you need to check and see when that term runs out. There are some newer policies that have nursing home riders on there. Check that out. That is a very important aspect. If you're looking at needing nursing home, you've got that ability out there. So take a look at your options, see what you have out there. Again, Kel and Gary and their teams can cover those things. Take a look at what you have. You may want to leave a legacy to your grandkids, something like that. Life insurance is one of the best ways to do that. All right, now I want to talk about something very important. This is what I was talking about that I want to point my finger back at me. And I'm talking about an in case of death or disaster folder. And this is something where, again, I'm pointing myself back to me. And in case of death and disaster folder is something that you can grab if you or a loved one passed away that had all of your key documents in there. So let me launch a poll real quick and just kind of see what we have out there. If anybody has an ICOD folder, in case of death folder. So I'll take a few minutes to leave that open, or a few seconds, leave that open. And if you want to answer that, yes or no, feel free to do that. I'll let it go just a few more seconds here. All right, very proud of those of you who have said, yes, you've got one. We'll wrap that up here. Just a couple of seconds here. I'll end that poll and let me publish the results. And this is amazing. This is my third presentation so far this year, and it's running about 60-40. So, or about 2/3 to 1/3 have an ICOD folder or don't have an ICOD folder. So it's pretty consistent across the country. I applaud those of you who have that. What I want to do is go through the components of an ICOD folder. And this is the challenge that I gave to my mom. Last week, I went and had lunch with her and took her this list. And I said, Mom, start pulling these things together because my brother and I want to sit and cover them with you and make sure that you're there. I live about 70 miles from the Gulf Coast. We've had one of these in a modified form by our phone for the past 20 years, simply because when it's time to evacuate for a hurricane, we can grab all those documents. Another time that this happened, my wife and daughter and her mother and sister were up in New York City, and she got her purse stolen. Well, I was able to grab that folder because it had copies of all her credit cards, copies of her passport, her driver's license, and all that, and get the thing stopped, get her back on a plane, all that kind of stuff. So it can be used for a lot of different reasons other than just in case of death. So here are the components of a good ICOD folder, in case of death or disaster folder. You want to have your life events, your birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, anything like that in part of that folder. Then you want to come and look at your life insurance and retirement. And I'm going to pause for a second and give my customer service announcement. Please, please, please take a look at all of your beneficiaries on all of your life and retirement documents today, this month. Knock that out. I've been in this business for 32 years. I've taken too many checks to ex-spouses because their original spouse passed away. And so that new wife or new husband is not real kicked in the shorts about that. I have taken death benefit checks to 2 of 3 children because the mother or father forgot to put the 3rd child on there or didn't have that on there when that child was born. Please, please, please check your beneficiaries to make sure that that doesn't cause strife in your family after you're gone. So you're going to want to put your life insurance policies in there, any type of pension documents, and especially any type of pension documents that relate to what happens after you're gone. Some of you may have selected that your pension is going to go to 0 once you're passed away. Others of you may say, my pension is going to continue at what it is until my spouse passes away or my beneficiary passes away, or it goes to a certain amount. Have all of those details in there so that whoever survives you knows what to expect in there. Same thing for annuity paperwork, any type of life insurance and retirement documents. You want not only the copies, who the beneficiaries are, but what happens to that policy or that pension annuity after you pass away. Then on the banking side, same thing. Put your bank accounts, because we now use so much mobile banking and all that kind of stuff. Put your passwords, your login stuff, your credit cards, your safety deposit box information. This happened to my father probably 5 or 6 years ago, or my father-in-law. 5 or 6 years ago, his father passed away and left him an envelope with about 10 safety deposit box keys in it. Didn't have any addresses, nothing. He went all over South Houston, going into banks. Does this safety deposit box match up? He was surprised at what he found in there. But again, details on where these things are. Make sure you've got that out there. All right. You'll also want your assets, your property, your land deeds, especially those of you in Missouri who have family land, things like that. Make sure you put that in there in your ICOD folder. Take just a quick second on cemetery deeds. I was giving this presentation to a group in Florida on Monday and got a call afterwards from a retired principal. And she said she was reading in the AARP magazine this month that now more than ever in the past, cemetery plots, people don't want to get buried anymore for whatever it's environmental reasons, cost, whatever it is. Cremation is much higher than burials now. Well, you may have purchased a cemetery plot in the past. Your parents have. My mother has purchased one that's about 400 miles away from where we live, back in her hometown. Just like timeshares, there are brokers who will sell your cemetery plot if you no longer want to be buried and you want to have some other means done, or you want to have it done closer to you, something like that. This may be an opportunity to get a little money. You're not going to get back probably what you paid for it. Don't know, that type of thing. Just know that those brokers are out there, but that could be an opportunity for you there. Again, timeshares, car titles, all of your savings, 403Bs, 401Ks, IRAs, whatever it is, including those passwords, anything out there as far as your assets. The same for your liabilities. If you've taken out any type of reverse mortgage, home equity loan, something like that on your home, please have those documents in there. Your family may be expecting to receive your home when you pass away. With a reverse mortgage, know that that could not happen. So make sure that you've got that in there. And then those monthly expenses, things that are going to need to be cut off right away, things that don't need to be taken care of, or if something happens to you, that somebody can pay on your behalf in the meantime. Those things out there as well. Then, because we're all over Facebook, we're communicating back and forth with the grandkids, with church friends, things like that. Just know what your account numbers are, what your passwords are, so that those can be cut off, those can be taken care of. Streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus and that stuff, computer passwords. And then this is where I'm really honing in with my mom, are these contact details. Who is her doctor? What pharmacy does she go to? Who is her AMBA representative? I mean, I know who her minister is. We go to the same church, all those type of things. Who are those people? Who are those key people that we need to contact before something happens to her or after something happens to her? And then those essential things, her wills, we took care of all the wills, the medical power of attorney. That's so important to have in there. And the instructions that she wants. Does she want to be taken back to her home and buried in the family cemetery plot up there? What her wishes are. And it's really something that can be a good conversation with you and your children, or you and your parents, to make sure that those things are all done in advance, so that it's when something happens, the grief that you're dealing with, you're not having to scramble to do other things as well. So if you want copies of these, I'm going to give you my email address at the end. We'll show you where we'll get the video posted, but I can also send you the links to checklists and things like that on here. So remember, I talked to you about my mom. And those of you who've been on our webinars before in the past, especially on long-term care, I talked about my father who passed away in October of 2020 after 2 years in a nursing home with dementia. And so I started to notice some of the same signs that I saw with my dad 5 years ago with my mom. So I encourage you, if this is you as the elderly parent, or you have parents that are still living, ask them these questions now. Where do you keep those documents? Again, help to build that ICOD folder. Do you have any financial representatives or advisors that are doing this for you? Who are your doctors? Where's your pharmacy? And then what kind of planning have you done for long-term care? If you can't bathe yourself, if you can't dress, if you can't unfortunately wipe your backside, those type of things, what do you want us to do? What do you want me and my brother to do? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want to have someone come in and take care of you? Do you want to move in with us? Those type of things. Do you want to move to a retirement community? Having those conversations now before you're forced to have those conversations are so important. I want to honor my mom's wishes. My stepmother could no longer take care of my father. Fortunately, we were blessed that he had purchased long-term care insurance and was able to get taken care of in a very good manner up until his passing. Make those decisions and have those conversations with your children or with your parents now and your brothers and sisters. Talk about those final wishes. Again, my mom has changed. She's 400 miles away from where she grew up, where the family plots are. She's decided she doesn't want to go back there. She wants to be buried near where all of her friends and church family are. Make that decision, have that conversation now. And then that final medical crisis issue. How do you want it? What kind of treatments do you want? That's that medical power of attorney. Ask those questions now. Make that your New Year's resolution, because that will save a lot of heartache in the long run. This is a really cool document. Again, if you want this, I'll show you my email at the end. I found this one from University of Minnesota and AARP. It is all about that financial conversation. How to sit down with your parent, or if you're the elderly parent, with your children, organize all your financial information and start to have that conversation with someone that you want to be your financial advocate. Now, for my mom, it could be me or my brother. For some people, they want a third party, that type of thing. It's whatever you want to do, but it just helps give you a step-by-step roadmap that says, these are the things that you need to do to get your house in order, and then to understand what you're planning to do. Because for my mom, she wants to leave anything that she's got to her grandkids, which is great. Her grandkids don't need anything from her financially, but she lived a very frugal lifestyle and wanted to give something to her grandkids. So knowing that in advance helps us understand what to do with her money after she leaves us. So again, this walks through there. I'll be glad to send you this link at the bottom. It's a really neat document that you can download. You can print it off, have it whatever you want to, but it's really a well done piece of material that can help keep your financial house in order. All right. And then finally, I want to talk about those things that are threats to your nest egg. We did this conversation late last year. We've got some new people on here today. The top 5 things that will scramble your nest egg. And I'm not talking about your pension. I'm talking about that money you saved outside of your pension. Things could be taking care of an elderly parent, or you being that elderly parent, death of a spouse without life insurance, those boomerang kids that come back and need to live with you, a medical crisis, or overexposure to the stock market as you age. And that's the one I want to touch base on just a little bit right now. If you've watched the stock market the last 10 years, you can see that it's been on an up and up and up and up trajectory. If you retired back in 2007, 2008, and lost 50% of your investments in the stock market, you may not have had time to rebuild that money that you needed in your retirement years. And so you've got to look at it and say, we've been on a great uphill ride. Can I stay this way? Can it stay this way? If I knew what the stock market was going to do, you wouldn't see me on this call. I'd be in the Caribbean somewhere living on a boat. But we've had bear markets where the stock market drops over 30% for at least a year plus and takes 2 years to recover. We've had them about every 10 years or so. It's been a long time since we've had one. So I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know, but there are ways that you can prevent having to worry about that. And we think, well, I'll just throw it over into a CD. I'll just throw it over into a savings account. What are your CD rates paying today? These are rates that I found here recently. Savings accounts are paying nothing. Inflation is jumping up, up, and up. Your money's losing money, losing spending power just sitting in the bank that way. There is an option that MRTA endorses. It's a wealth management solution that allows you to participate in the market gains without any type of downside risk. So if the stock market goes down, you don't lose any money. You only get the gains out there. It also has the thing that I like about it, and the reason why I have it are those long-term care benefits that are inside of it. So it allows me to say, you know what? I don't know if I want to spend money on a long-term care policy right now, but if something happens, I want to know that I've got some benefits, some coverage if I need to be taken care of in a nursing facility out there. So gives you ability out there to have that. this is a wealth management solution that can take care of those things for you and that MRTA endorses as well. Because we've got many more years to live. Those who hit 65, chances are you're going to live to age 90, go up and up. So it's incredible that the lifespans continue to expand and grow out there. You know, inflation can have an impact on our spending power. Some of those life changes, medical diagnoses, things like that. We've got to be prepared for those things. And that's what AMBA and MRTA is designed to do, here to support you, to help you grow old with confidence, with with integrity and dignity as well. Don't forget about the passport program. You can save a lot of money out here, especially if you decided I'm going to get healthy this year. There's all types of discounts on vitamins, sneakers, workout places. Some of these are online. Some of these are places that you can go in person. This Get Set Up is a new one that's out there. We hadn't had this before. Get Set Up is kind of a virtual classroom. So if you get a new TV, it'll show you how to set your TV up. It'll show you how to do your laptop. It'll show you how to get connected to Zoom if you've got challenges on that. Really a neat program that's out there. And I know that I'm thinking about it for my mom, because she always calls my kids, how do I get on the computer? My computer did this, that type of thing. It's really kind of a neat program that's out there. And then you've got things like TurboTax. There's lots of money saving things out there as well. Go check out the Passport program, simply because there's a lot of New Year's savings out there in ways that you can make your dollar stretch a little bit further, and a benefit of MRTA. All right, that's our conversation for today. If you've got any questions, drop it in there. Don't forget, we've got several webinars coming up throughout the first quarter, talking about dental and vision at the end of the month. We're going to come back the 1st of February and talk about Medicare, go really in depth on all of those changes and talk about how it can impact you and kind of just help you understand the alphabet soup. It's really designed for people who are not yet 65 and coming up on Medicare. But if you're on Medicare and you want to learn more about it, come join us for that. Then on the 24th, near the end of the month, we're going to talk about all the new discounts that are out there. If you're getting ready to travel, the fall has happened, the spring thaw, and you want to get out and move around, we'll talk about the different perks that are out there and talk about emergency transportation. We'll kind of understand how this new law has worked its way through there. And then we'll wrap up in March with our long-term care conversations, very popular ones out there. So please, please, please let your friends know about MRTA. Let your former coworkers know about MRTA. This is a great way to introduce them to MRTA, a great way that they can find out about the foundation, that they can find out about legislative days, the new executive director, all the stuff that Nancy and her crew are doing, and different ways that you can get out there and get involved. So please let them know. Again, the more people we get over 30,000, the even better when it comes to those legislative issues. So I encourage you to jump on that there. So any questions? If you want a copy of some of the links to the iCod folder, how to build an iCod folder, or the links to the roadmap, simply email me at jon.green@amba.info. And I'll shoot you those links, or I'll have Kel or Gary, somebody send you those links. If you want answers or want to talk to someone, a benefits representative with AMBA, simply take your smartphone, open up your camera on your smartphone, and hover over that QR code. Hover over that QR code, a little form will pop up and you can hit that. You can ask about that MRTA endorsed wealth management or wealth planning solution. You can talk about long-term care. You can talk about Medicare, anything that you want to, hit that on there. And then it just put your information in there. And one of the guys that lives in Missouri will give you a contact and take care of you that way. So we appreciate that. I'm going to stop recording right now. And